and capitalism is essentially an economic system, I mean, making a profit is capitalism, no?
But they're also providing for basic needs of their citizens.
That's social services that we have a lot of in this country, in any capitalist country. It's called social services, social
homeless,
security.
sir.
What's that?
I've been homeless. Have you ever been homeless?
Well, if I lived in the USSR, it's almost like being homeless, that's right. I was stateless. It's even worse.
Homeless here.
But why is that?
Because I ran into some personal troubles and ended up losing my place that I was staying at.
Do you have parents?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they take you back?
I was ashamed to a certain extent and decided not to call them.
So, but you do have a place to go to if you know, in case of emergency. It's not like you were disavowed by your parents. I'm sure you have nice parents who would always take you back. As a prodigal, what's the word?
Prodigal.
Yeah, prodigal son.
For a fairly long period of time, I was, because of certain issues that I was going through at the time.
Drugs.
Yeah. On the other hand, I'm also 3 years clean now, so that's kind of the trade-off.
See, I never tried drugs. I never liked alcohol. The only alcohol that I drink is beer. I mean, when we go through the trouble, you have this freedom, you have this choice to do drugs, not to do drugs, you know, to abuse alcohol, not to abuse. It's a personal choice, isn't it so?
Yes.
Not so in USSR, by the way. In the communist country, you really have no choices. Really, your choices are very, very, they're non-existent, actually, non-existent.
Going back to social services.
Sure.
You mentioned that they're very easily obtained and that we have a lot of them in the United States.
Yes, we do.
They're not as easily obtained as you would think, especially if you, for example, don't have a home address or a phone number.
You could have moved back in with your parents, no?
I couldn't have at that point.
I mean, they said no, they wouldn't have accepted you?
Yeah.
Or you were ashamed, like you said?
It was shame at first, and then I tried to, and they wouldn't let me move back in. I ended up having a friend take me in. I got clean and moved back in with my parents.
Well, I mean, with all due respect, I'm not going to applaud you that you've been staying clean for three years because you shouldn't have started in the first place.
Absolutely, yeah, you're right.
So, you know, again, it was a bad decision. Speaking of, you know, bad decisions, bad choices, this is one of them. You know, the only difference is that in this case, you're hurting yourself. In the other case, we're talking about the lives of 10 million people.
Okay.
But anyway, we're not talking about their personal issues. We're talking about communism, socialism, and social services. I mean, you could have moved in. I mean, it's not like unsurmountable problems. I can tell you the unsurmountable problems. If you talk about the homeless, in the USSR, for instance, how do you think people lived in the USSR? I mean, what's your concept? How did they get the dwelling? How did it work over there? Do you know?
Here's my issue.
Sure.
The issue with capitalism is that there is currently more housing than there are homeless people. That is free. There is more freely available housing right now than there are homeless people. Why is that?
Well, I mean, we call it market, no? They build houses expecting the demand, it fluctuates. So
Okay,
that's
if we could house every homeless person, why don't we?
Yes, we do. We have shelters for that.
But there's enough houses to house every homeless person.
Why should I put in my house? Why should I put in my neighborhood? I mean, make money, buy the house, you have this freedom. Versus USSR. Now let me tell you how people...
How do you get a job without a house or a phone?
Well, how do people... Look, I came here with $100. I had no previous history whatsoever, no credit history, no support, nothing.
Was that?
I started this in 1988.
Okay,
so
in 1988 there was also a very different job market. There was a very different societal market.
Think about it. I came here with
My dad graduated law school in 91, by the way, and now the law market is completely tanked. So it's a completely different job market. There was a huge demand for lawyers when my dad.
We are talking about the.
Now there's no room for them at all. So
we are talking about the difference of living in the street or having some sort of roof over your head, right?
Correct.
So at least that kind of fundamental difference,
correct,
right? That's the dichotomy that we're talking about at this point.
That is one of them, yeah.
Okay, so coming to this country with $100 in your pocket wasn't fun at all. At least I spoke English. Most of other people that I came with didn't speak English at all. All of us. I mean, think about it. No prior history, no money, nothing. All of us found a job. I don't know of a single fellow former Soviet citizen who was ever homeless. Not one. Not one. We couldn't afford the living conditions at first, so we shared the house, or we shared an apartment, we shared the place. Yes, it was inconvenient, but we immediately started looking for a job, learning the language. Those who didn't know, obviously my English was very, very rudimentary back then, but we all made it. I mean, all of us, every single one of us, coming from a foreign country, not speaking the language, not being blessed with all the opportunities and the language skills that you guys have. And you're telling me that you were homeless? I should feel sorry for you? I'm sorry, I don't. Because I was
I didn't
in
tell you to feel sorry for me.
No, but that's how it sounds.
What I said is that there shouldn't be homeless people.
But most of the homeless people, you know it, come on, and I know, they're just mentally sick. That's what it is.
So that means they shouldn't have a home?
No, it means that they are provided home, they just don't want to stay home. And another big problem, it is a problem, I would grant you that, even though you didn't bring it up, is that psychiatric help, we need to put more people in psychiatric hospitals. But then there's another problem, that bleeding heart liberals, they think, well, how can we put these people against their will in these institutions? And then it becomes a vicious circle.
So what do we do for veterans from Vietnam who have an astronomical homelessness rate?
Astronomical. I'm not sure it's astronomical. I don't know the numbers. I don't know whether specifically the Vietnam vets are the ones who suffer the most. But what I do know is that we have homeless shelters all over the country, all over the place. And I agree that we should more for our veterans. I absolutely admire they're the front line in keeping us free and enjoying the freedoms that we have over here. So these are the people that have to be helped foremost. So we're looking at how many veterans, Vietnam veterans, are sleeping under the bridge. Remember, there's this guy, presidential candidate, who I think did he escape? Yeah, he almost escaped the prison. I forgot his name. This sleek guy who kept on saying that they're veterans, so they're sleeping under the bridge in his every speech. So you think they're going to find this number? You think they're keeping tabs? Okay, you're...
47,725 veterans are homeless on any given night.
Oh, come on. That's baloney. And what do you mean by homeless? They're sleeping under the bridge? And what's the source?
That's from the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans.
I don't know. I don't know how we can trust these numbers. And I know what coalition that is. And I know, whether these are legitimate numbers.
Approximately 12,700 veterans of Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation New Dawn were homeless in 2010. The number of young homeless veterans is increasing, but only constitutes 8.8% of the overall homeless veteran population.
Well, that's sad. If that's the true numbers, then we're wasting a lot of money on people who don't deserve, and yet we're ignoring our own veterans. I mean, it's a total disgrace. It's a total disgrace. When the people who, don't really deserve, it's not that they don't deserve help, but
according to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, there are 49,933 homeless veterans.
Okay, I mean, if that's the true number, it's a shame. That's all I can say. It is a shame then that Barack Obama, for instance, in 8 years couldn't resolve this issue. Maybe that he doesn't care much about our veterans. It's a shame.
Why are Republicans repeatedly the ones who are voting against veterans?
I seriously doubt that.
You seriously doubt that?
I seriously doubt that.
You seriously doubt that?
Yes, I absolutely doubt that.
The Republicans routinely vote to defund veterans, and the Democrats routinely vote to fund them.
You think so?
Yeah. Democrats routinely vote to defund the military budget, which does not affect the veterans budget. The Veteran Affairs budget is a separate budget from the defense budget.
Well, again, I can't speak about all the numbers and all these issues that I'm very well familiar with. I mean, I can research this whole issue, but I do know that we do stand. The Republicans are much more for veterans than the Democrats.
That's
that I know
true.
that's not true. Okay, then why
the Republicans are much more for war than Democrats.
For war. Then why in 7.5 years Obama didn't kind of help the veterans if he cares so much about it? Okay, he had the Senate and the Congress for the first 2 or 4 years of his presidency. 2 years. So why didn't he resolve this issue in the first
Because
2 years?
nobody wants to make homelessness a priority, and no one's willing to expend political capital to value it.
I see. Okay, but he's spending his capital by wasting
He
800.
has no political capital.
He wasted $800 billion during the first months of his presidency on so-called stimulus plan. Then he wasted his political capital on so-called
You're
Obamacare.
preaching to the choir. I don't support Obama.
Oh, good. Okay, at least we're agreeing on something. High five. So what's going to happen? Are you a Bernie supporter or none of the above kind of guy?
I'm voting for Gloria La Riva.
Who?
Gloria La Riva from the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. You're a commie. Okay. A good commie is a